Hi everyone, welcome to the One DEI thing. DEI stands for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. I am Natasha Green, the project lead for this series, and I am super excited that you decided to join or listen to this on replay. Shout out to the folks who will be replaying this. You get mad love from me also. This is an AnitaB.org webinar series in which men share one thing they did to improve their company's culture. Absolutely. There are probably tons of things these individuals are doing, but I decided one thing would be enough in the time we have together. All speakers wanted to create a culture so that employees feel that they can grow, learn, and have equal opportunity for advancement in their highest individual potential, no matter who they are, where they're from, what their race is, how they look, or even how old they are. Each speaker believes that an individual potential should not be restricted because of discriminatory practices. This initiative stems from AnitaB.org's mission, where we envision a future where the people who imagine and build technology mirror the people and societies for whom they build it. We do a lot of work connecting, guiding, and inspiring women and our allies to ensure anywhere you see technology being built, you will also see an equal representation of women building and leading those technological products or services, and getting paid fairly. I believe in order for this to happen, many individuals at all levels in the organization will have to advocate and do their part, wherever they are in the organizational chart. That person can shift an organization's culture to be inclusive and a place where everyone feels like they belong and that they are reaching their full potential. We thank you for joining us today, so please grab a notepad and pen and take some notes.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. My name is Nathan Gao, and I am a user experience design lead at a company called TransPerfect. We are the largest language services company in the world, located here in, I would have liked to say sunny, but it's actually kind of gray, New York City. So I've been there as a user experience designer for about 5 to 6 years. User experience design, if you are not familiar, involves improving every possible aspects of different products, services, and environments to be able to help provide helpful, desirable, and beneficial experience for end user, as opposed to the people who are making them, right? We've all sat in a room where we're supposed to be, helping some people with things, creating a product for them, and they're like, yeah, I think they're about right. That's kind of like what I would like. Let's just go with that and try from there. Where our work is really about being able to provide kind of like in-depth understanding about a person's circumstances while they're engaging with our products and services, and making everything kind of good for them in a very balanced whole. This involves everything from doing research, visual design, framing what's called information architectures, being able to provide like good environments so that you as an end user understand the product that you're using intuitively without having to sit there and read through manuals and things like that. And it's a very complicated field. So good user experience design is often about challenging accepted systems and orthodoxies. We're not really just sitting here checking off of a list of tasks to complete. And it's a regular occurrence for us to have to suggest to folks that their understanding, even in their area's domain and expertise, it may not be entirely correct. So you can imagine how the intersection of work like this and concerns about diversity, representation can get a little bit complicated. As a fine example, Natasha asked us for one thing that we do. I have a list of 5. So I wanted to go over a little bit how I try to running like a small team of about 3 people, how I try to provide an environment that kind of like nurtures like diversity while enabling people to do kind of difficult work. So one of the first things I think is most important that I have to do on a day-to-day basis is basically work by principles. This is an easy thing to say and hard to do. And what I mean by that is, a lot of our, in a lot of my work, and I'm sure in a lot of your work as well, there's a lot of disagreements. When you're working in a very collaborative team environment, you people have different opinions, different thoughts on how to approach by how to which directions to head in. And one of the most important things I think some of you may have heard people say is basically work by first principles. Is that you're not just coming to your disagreement with an opinion that you're having at any given one moment, but you want to come back to really have to be able to have principles that are deeply rooted in good purpose, and often should be backed up by near scientific levels of rigor in our understanding. Right? It's not just something that we decided to shoot off the hip every once in a shoot off the hip because it kind of felt right at the time. It's we have an opinion about something because we sat there and we talked to people. We spent time like trying to understand, interview people and understand how they actually work, what their behavior is, what kind of problems that they're having, and it's less about just mine or anybody else's wins. Right? This involves challenging yourself and to be honest with your own shortcomings in terms of how well you understand a situation, what other people might bring to the table, because it means that a lot of this means that you don't have a single point of authority anymore. It's you trying to understand the complex system, and therefore you need to be able to back your decision up with solid thinking. And this is the reason why this is important for diversity and inclusions is that a lot of the issues that different organizations have is that you have people coming in and talking over others, right? People come in and by their authority or their seniority just go around and say, hey, just do what I said to do, and ignore it. Do what I say to do, and that's that. When in reality, what you are trying to do is basically provide a place for people of different opinions and perspectives to have a place to come and actually have those kind of conversations. Excuse me for 1 second. And that kind of comes to the second point that I wanted to bring up is we need to spend a lot of time, providing psychological safety to people on our teams. So what does that actually mean? And some of you may have heard this before, but in my book, this basically doing things, including, providing people with the benefit of the doubt when they make mistakes, being generally kind to the people who are on your team and other members of the team that you collaborate with, checking in with your people regularly, but not incessantly, in order to make sure that they're okay dealing with their work environment. And also you want to spend some time investing in them to be and empowering them to lead and execute in their work. A big part of this is genuinely about caring about the other members of your team members and trying your best to make it about helping them instead of just helping yourself. Part of this also, in my opinion, involves not pinning things. Don't pin on people the system's problem. In our day-to-day work, especially when you're working with people and collaborating and you have different opinions and whatever have you, it is easy to want to blame someone when they make a mistake. And a lot of times, it's it's the culture's problem, or it's problems with the processes. Again, don't be quick to blame people. Try to actually understand what the underlying problems are, and then make sure, be more focused about working with your team together in order to address the problem, as opposed to pointing fingers. And I think if you provide psychological safety to a sufficient degree, people should be able to come to you, as Sanjay mentioned earlier about providing mentorship, whatever have you. I think part of it involves being able to for you to be a constant like listening ear for the members on your team. My team members have definitely come to complain and vent and talk about, you know, like issues in the company that they have a problem with. And so a couple of them have even cried in the past in these meetings, and it's all okay. A lot of this work can be really, really difficult, and it's important to be able to kind of like acknowledge it so that you can provide a better and like safe and healthier working environment for your team. And my third point comes to my third point actually is about, you know, don't just say you're going to help people, like just do it. Whether it's talking about kind of like, you know, the hiring efforts that Sanjay has mentioned before, or being able to, you know, build like a better environment on your team. There's a lot of people out there who does the whole like thought leadership thing and spend, you know, endless time in the talk circuit talking about like how we need to do these things. We're going to hire all of these, you know, diversity and initiative. At the end of the day, it's often better if you just roll up your sleeve and actually do the work. You know, don't be the person who just kind of talks a good fight. This could be understanding that this can be actually really difficult to do in highly political and, you know, even kind of like toxic environments. We unfortunately don't all get to pick our workplaces. I'm fortunate enough where I think there are obviously politics happening at certain levels, but at the same time, the management, including my boss, despite whatever our disagreements, often come back to the table and say, this is kind of the environment that we want. We want to legitimately kind of like help the people on our team. And again, you may not have the privilege of being working in one of those environments like that. And I wish I had a better panacea in those situations. But I would say that, you know, in even in the past where I've worked in kind of like difficult and again, somewhat toxic environments, there are always opportunities to help people. There are people who are not just sitting, there often are people who are not just sitting, playing the political game, trying to look out for themselves and things like that. And there are opportunities for you to, you know, build coalitions, for you to, um, you know, like contribute to making other people's lives at work better. Look for chances to do that, and where you can contribute, try to. Um, my fourth point is basically to be able to the word I'm looking for is kind of plain block and uplift. Um, the team member, this is especially true when you're talking about when you're working with women and also minorities. My team has, despite it being 3 people, has both. Actually, the other person is someone who is a little bit older, so we get the age angle covered as well. But a lot, you'll notice that, you know, there's a term in my field of work referred to as Hippo, which stands for the highest paid person's opinion. When you're in meetings, that's often a thing that comes through, kind of as I mentioned earlier, where, you know, it comes about one person empowers opinion over everything else. And sometimes you, as the team's leader, are in the position to do that. Whether you realize it or not, you know, sometimes you'll start talking over people, and make that kind of mistakes. And the goal here is to constantly encourage others to participate and make sure that their views are represented as well. Because quite frankly, I've not met anyone whose opinions are any remotely near perfect on any number of subjects that we have to work on. So, and a lot of times this means you stepping back, right? Like in the work that I mentioned, we have to, because we're working in complex systems, we have to make a lot of assertions. Hey, we think this thing works this way, or this worked that way, or this worked that way. Sometimes in order to try to help your team members, you have to pull yourself back. You have to stop yourself and ask if does anybody else, you know, have something they would like to contribute to, whether or not it's about, you know, if do they have thoughts on you and perspective on this that acknowledge that you might not acknowledge that they may have perspective on the issue that you may not have, and encourage them to contribute, encourage them to converse. And at the same time, and at the same time, give them credit, right? I think, especially in the women in the room, have heard about, men taking, basically repeating somebody else's idea and then taking all the credit for it. I don't doubt that that's happened with me as well, but you want to take every opportunity you have to say, like, hey, attribute credit. This person did the thing. This person had this idea. This person did this. Give some credit to others in order to help contribute to that better, like, overall environment where it's not really all about you. You're trying to balance helpful criticism with care for others. And I think also, as a part of like uplifting people, Sanji makes a really good point earlier about providing like better mentorship. Is like you always want to be trying to be available to guide others, but also, leave them alone and don't micromanage, right? And I feel like if you do a lot of these things right in terms of building a good team environment, you shouldn't have to micromanage as much, if at all. Um, Again, very kind of contextual based on the actual company that you're in. But in my experience, micromanagement is seldom necessary unless you have kind of like major personnel issues. And my last point is kind of to what I was hinted at before, is that I've screwed up before, and I think all of us inevitably will at some point. This is not an easy thing to manage people from different backgrounds, different perspectives, different ideas, different like vectors of looking at problems, and come back and just have everybody just be happy and hunky dory all the time. It just doesn't happen. So people are going to end up stepping on toes. You're going to say things that you thought was completely kosher, and then other people really don't think so, or they may even like take offense, or they have a problem with it. And I think the last point here that I want to make is that you want to really be quick to apologize and actually mean it. Acknowledge when you make mistakes. Have a genuine conversation with people, and don't just spend your time being completely defensive, right? Again, that there are, in different company environments where people might be much more highly political, and in some cases, unfortunately, even litigious. It can be difficult, and I can't pretend that this is just a simple strategy that'll work in all environments. But I do think there's a lot of value in, as a leader, to let yourself be vulnerable so others can be vulnerable with you. A lot of these things that I mentioned, I think, is tied to kind of like specific company cultures, and I think that is another conversation altogether. But it's something that you always want to kind of be keeping an eye on in terms of work opportunities and what kind of people that you want to work with. That was, I think, quite a bit, but that's pretty much all I had. Did anybody have any questions?